Imagine a world where the financial system is on the brink of collapse. Banks are failing, millions lose their jobs, and the global economy teeters on the edge. In 2008, this nightmare became a reality, and one man was tasked with saving it all: Ben Bernanke. Ben Shalom Bernanke, a proud Jewish economist and the former chair of the Federal Reserve, is famously credited with steering the U.S. through the 2008 financial crisis. An expert on the Great Depression, he faced what many call the greatest economic challenge since that time. As a kid, he won his school spelling bee with the word Edelweiss, proving early on that he was destined for precision and brilliance. Ben Bernanke, savior or scapegoat? Today, we're diving into the decisions that shaped the Great Recession, the controversy surrounding them, and the legacy of Ben Bernanke. How did we get here? To understand Bernanke's role, we need to look at what caused the 2008 financial crisis. It all began with a housing bubble, a period where home prices skyrocketed due to risky lending practices by banks. Banks lent money to people who couldn't afford to pay it back, packaging these loans into investments known as mortgage-backed securities. When homeowners defaulted, the entire system began to crumble. In September 2008, Lehman Brothers, one of the largest investment banks, declared bankruptcy. Panic spread, stock markets plunged, and the global economy entered freefall. As chair of the Federal Reserve, Bernanke had one goal: to prevent the financial system from collapsing, and he acted fast. 1. Lowering interest rates. First, he slashed interest rates to nearly zero, making borrowing cheaper for businesses and individuals to stimulate spending. This was one of the fastest rate-cutting periods in history. 2. Quantitative easing. Then, he introduced a controversial policy called quantitative easing, or QE. The Federal Reserve bought government bonds and mortgage-backed securities, injecting money into the economy to increase liquidity. Think of it as giving banks a financial lifeline so they could continue lending. 3. Emergency lending programs. Bernanke also set up emergency programs to provide loans directly to struggling banks and even some corporations, ensuring they didn't run out of money. Perhaps the most controversial of all, the bailouts. The government, with the Fed's support, spent billions saving companies like AIG and General Motors, arguing they were too big to fail. While Bernanke's actions may have stopped the financial collapse, they weren't without criticism. Critics argue that the bailouts rewarded banks for their reckless behavior, creating a moral hazard, essentially telling banks that they could take big risks without facing the consequences. Criticism 2. Wall Street versus Main Street. Others pointed out that while banks recovered quickly, ordinary people suffered. Unemployment hit 10% and millions lost their homes. The recovery seemed uneven, helping Wall Street but leaving Main Street behind. But not everyone saw it that way. In 2022, Bernanke was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics for his research on banking and financial crises. Supporters say his actions prevented a second Great Depression. Praise 1. Preventing a collapse. His decisive measures stabilized the global economy and restored confidence in the financial system. Praise Chapter 2. Transparency. Bernanke also pushed for greater transparency at the Fed, making its decisions clearer to the public. So, how do we judge Bernanke's legacy? On one hand, he's credited with saving the global economy. On the other, his actions fueled debates about inequality and government intervention. Ben Bernanke's decisions during the 2008 financial crisis reshaped the global economy and redefined the role of central banks. Whether you see him as a hero or a villain, one thing is clear: his impact will be debated for decades to come. Now here's something to think about. Who do you think will be our next hero to save us from the next economic crisis? Could it be someone like Elon Musk? And do you believe he'd be as selfless and steady as Ben Bernanke was during the 2008 financial meltdown? What's your take on Bernanke's role? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into history and economics, and share this video with anyone curious about the 2008 crisis.